despite the fact that the Government Service Administration has not signed over any resources to the Biden transition team, despite the fact that Joe Biden is not getting national security briefings like even Donald Trump did at this time after his election, despite the fact that the State Department is withholding messages for Biden from foreign leaders. Joe Biden has named Ron Klain his new chief of staff. Klain has been a longtime staffer for Joe Biden over the years. He was also chief of staff for Al Gore. He was also involved in the recount effort by Al Gore in Florida. He clerked for Justice Byron White. He headed the response to Ebola under the Obama administration. So at the very least, Ron Klain is perhaps the most experienced and knowledgeable person Joe Biden could have picked as chief of staff to deal with the response to COVID. He had a 2018 piece in Vox, of all places, extensive, talking about his concern that we were woefully unprepared for a potential pandemic in this country. Here he is in, this is in February, just 2 weeks after the first confirmed case, 9 months before the current White House chief of staff contracted the virus a couple of weeks ago. And here he is testifying on the actions that the Trump administration had taken up to that point. This is now, like, I guess, mid-February. Here it is.
We don't have a travel ban. We have a travel Band-Aid right now. First, before it was imposed, 300,000 people came here from China in the previous month, so the horse is out of the barn. Second, what we have restricted is not travel to or from China, but passports to and from China. There's no restriction on Americans going back and forth. There are warnings. People should abide by those warnings. But today, 30 planes will land in Los Angeles that either originated in Beijing or came here on one stops. 30 in San Francisco, 25 in New York City, okay? So unless we think that the color of the passport someone carries is a meaningful public health restriction, we have not placed a meaningful public health restriction. And then to get to your question, exempt from the president's travel restriction, of course, is the import of goods from China and, of course, the people who fly the planes and drive the boats that bring those goods from China. We couldn't ban that activity. We vitally need that. 90% of the antibiotics in this country come from China. All kinds of vital medical supplies. Dr. Nuzzo mentioned the PPE we will use to treat people. So travel bans, even putting aside Dr. Nuzzo's concern, that's not what we're imposing. That's not what exists. What we should be focused on is monitoring the people who are here, who have been in China in the past 14 days. That is complicated. That is hard. We built a path-breaking system to do that in the Ebola response. This is much larger and more complicated, and I don't think we've heard answers. I hope Congress will get them, but what the administration is doing on that, which really should be our public health priority.
So that was on February 5th, and what Klain is asking for at that time is the travel ban is silly, he's saying, particularly the way that it's constructed. It's meaningless. He said, what we really need to do is get answers on their ability to do contact tracing of these people. And of course, they never did get answers, or to the extent that we did get an answer, we know what the answer ends up being. Oh, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing any testing. We're not doing any contact tracing. In fact, can you imagine like going back in time and sitting down with Ron Klain saying, oh, not only are they not going to do any contact tracing or anything like that, they're not even going to acknowledge that this is real. No, we're going to hold off acknowledging it's real for a month or two. And then we're going to go through an entire stage of denying that masks are in any way helpful. Then we're going to re-deny the existence of the whole thing, say it's a hoax. Then we're going to go into late stage denial where we say this is all going to go away if Joe Biden wins the election. And now here we are, over 140,000 infections yesterday. There are 10,000, there are almost 70,000 people in hospitalized now. That number has gone up by 10,000 over the past week and a half. We're at escape velocity now with this. It's not going away, incidentally.
Go back in time and tell him that, a year from now, you might be able to get started on some of this stuff yourself.
Exactly. But the problem is, as he said with that travel ban, is that the cows are outside the barn now. And so the strategy going forward is going to have to be try and mitigate and minimize until we get to a vaccine.